3 deadlines already gone. 1 superstar quarterback still silent. And now, the Pittsburgh Steelers might finally be losing patience. Subscribe right now for daily Steelers coverage you don't want to miss. Let's get straight into it, because this situation is no longer just waiting. It's turning into pressure, tension, and maybe even a breaking point. We are officially past the NFL draft. That moment came and went. No decision, no announcement, no clarity. And now, the Steelers and their entire fan base are stuck in that uncomfortable gray zone once again, asking the same question that has been hanging over this franchise for months. Is Aaron Rodgers actually going to be the starting quarterback this season? Think about that for a second. Another year, another offseason, another waiting game. And here's the part that makes this even more frustrating. This wasn't supposed to happen again. The organization made it clear earlier in the offseason that this situation would not drag out like it did before. There was confidence. There was urgency. There was a belief that this would be handled quickly and decisively. But here we are, in May, still waiting. So let me ask you this right now. Be honest. How long is too long before patience turns into a problem? Because now, we've got a major update that changes the tone of everything. According to Jerry Dulac, someone who is deeply connected to what's happening inside the organization, the Steelers have been showing what he described as saint-like patience, waiting for Rodgers to make up his mind. Saint-like patience. That's not normal patience. That's not casual waiting. That's extreme restraint. But even that has limits. Dulac's report makes one thing very clear. The Steelers are starting to feel that pressure. And more importantly, they want Rodgers to feel it too. Because now, there's a timeline emerging. A soft deadline that's starting to carry real weight. May 18th, the start of OTAs. That date isn't random. It matters. OTAs are where systems start to take shape. Chemistry begins to build. New coaching strategies are installed. It's where teams begin transforming from off-season speculation into actual football units. And if your starting quarterback isn't there, you're already behind. Now, let's be clear, OTAs are not mandatory. Players can miss them. It happens all the time. But in this situation, with a new system, new expectations, and a locker room full of veterans trying to win right now, it's different. This isn't just about attendance. This is about commitment. And here's where things get really interesting. If this message is being reported publicly, it's not accidental. This is calculated. This is the Steelers, quietly but clearly, sending a message to Rodgers. We've waited. We've respected your process. But now, we need an answer. And that brings us to a critical turning point in this entire saga. Because while May 18th might be the soft deadline, there's another date looming in the background that could change everything. Mandatory minicamp. With Mike McCarthy running the offense, you're talking about a quarterback who has already mastered that system at the highest level. That's not a small detail. That's a massive advantage. You're not starting from scratch. You're not teaching fundamentals. You're building on a foundation that already exists. And when you look at the weapons around him now compared to before, it's better. It's deeper. It's more dangerous. Which raises another question. If everything lines up this well, why is this decision taking so long? That's the part that's driving fans crazy. Because from the outside looking in, it feels like the Steelers are ready. The roster, built to compete. Veterans, locked in. Expectations, clear. This is not a rebuilding team. This is not a wait-and-see roster. This is a team trying to win now. And when you're in that position, uncertainty at quarterback is the last thing you want. Especially when your alternative options are young and proven players who haven't taken meaningful NFL snaps. That's where the long-term conversation comes into play. Because it's not just about this season. It's about the future too. Young quarterbacks like Drew Aller and Will Howard need time. They need development. They need structure. They need a mentor. And there might not be a better mentor in football than Rodgers when it comes to understanding this offensive system. Imagine what a full year of learning behind him could do for a young quarterback. The footwork, the reads, the timing, the decision-making. That's not something you rush. That's something you build. But if Rodgers doesn't come, all of that changes instantly. Now you're throwing young players into the fire. Now you're accelerating timelines. Now you're risking development for the sake of survival. And that's a dangerous game. So when you step back and look at the full picture, you start to understand why the Steelers have been so patient. Because the upside is massive. But patience only works if there's an end point. And we might be getting very close to that end point right now. Now here's your question of the day, and I want you to really think about this before you answer. Should the Steelers keep waiting for Rodgers no matter what? Or is it time to move on and commit to a new direction? Comment your answer below. I want to see where you stand on this. Because this fan base is split right now. Some believe Rodgers is the missing piece. Others believe this entire situation is already costing the team valuable time. And both sides have valid arguments. But there's one more twist in this story that hasn't gotten nearly enough attention. A wildcard scenario. A name that could suddenly enter the conversation depending on how things unfold. Brendan Sorsby. Now this isn't a guaranteed outcome. Not even close. But it's a possibility. Due to off-field issues involving gambling violations, Sorsby's eligibility situation is currently in question. And if things don't resolve in time, he could be forced into the supplemental draft. And if that happens, everything changes. Because now you're talking about a young quarterback with serious upside, size, arm strength, athleticism, entering a system where teams can take a calculated risk. But here's the catch. The supplemental draft is unpredictable. It's quiet, strategic, almost like a silent auction. Teams submit bids based on draft pick value. And if you win that bid, you lose that future pick. So if the Steelers want him, they'd have to be aggressive. And even then, there's no guarantee. Teams like the Cardinals or Jets could easily outbid them. And considering the uncertainty surrounding Sorsby, it's hard to imagine Pittsburgh going all in on that gamble. Which brings us right back to where we started, waiting on Rodgers. Because despite everything, the delays, the frustration, the shifting timelines, there's still a strong belief that he will eventually say yes. In fact, it feels more likely than not. Why? Because actions matter. And when a quarterback is consistently communicating with the organization, discussing football, staying engaged, that doesn't look like someone walking away. That looks like someone taking their time before making a final commitment. Maybe too much time, but still leaning toward playing. And if that's the case, then this entire frustrating process might actually lead to something worth it. Because if Rodgers does sign, this team becomes dangerous. Not perfect, not unstoppable, but dangerous. A team that can win double-digit games. A team that can compete in the playoffs. A team that, if things break the right way, could enter the conversation with the league's top contenders. And suddenly, all the waiting, all the frustration, all the uncertainty, it starts to make sense. But until that decision is made, the tension isn't going anywhere. The clock is ticking. The pressure is building. And the Steelers are getting closer and closer to a moment where they might have to make a decision of their own. Wait, or walk away. And when that moment comes, everything changes. Stay locked in, because the next update could be the biggest one yet. Here we go, Steelers. Got it. This isn't about trimming anymore. This is about adding fuel to the fire and extending the story in a way that keeps viewers locked in until the very last second. So let's take this even deeper, because what we're seeing right now isn't just a waiting game. It's a psychological battle between a franchise that wants clarity and a quarterback who refuses to be rushed. And here's something that not enough people are talking about. This situation, it's not just affecting the front office. It's not just affecting the coaching staff. It's affecting the locker room. Think about being a veteran on the Pittsburgh Steelers right now. You've put in the work. You've gone through off-season training. You've seen the moves this team has made, bringing in talent, keeping key players, clearly signaling that this is a win-now roster. And yet, you don't know who your quarterback is going to be. That uncertainty matters more than people realize. Because football isn't just about talent. It's about timing, chemistry, trust. And all of that starts with the quarterback. If you're a wide receiver, you want reps with your QB. If you're an offensive lineman, you want to understand his cadence, his rhythm. If you're a leader in that locker room, you want direction. And right now, that direction is still up in the air. Now let me ask you something, and really think about this. What message does it send to the locker room if this drags all the way into mandatory minicamp, or even beyond? Because at some point, players start to notice. They start to question. Not necessarily in a negative way, but in a real, human way. Are we all in? Or are we still waiting on one guy to decide? That's where this becomes bigger than just Rodgers. That's where leadership comes into play. And look, no one is questioning the legacy of Aaron Rodgers. Future Hall of Famer. One of the most gifted quarterbacks to ever play the game. A guy who can still elevate a team instantly. But leadership isn't just about what you've done. It's about what you're doing right now. And right now, the delay is becoming part of the story. Now here's the flip side, because we've got to be fair here. Rodgers has earned the right to take his time. He's not a rookie trying to make a roster. He's not a mid-tier player fighting for a contract. He's a franchise-altering decision. When he signs somewhere, it changes everything. Expectations, media attention, playoff outlook. So from his perspective, this is a life decision. This isn't just, do I want to play football? It's, do I want to commit to another full season of everything that comes with it? The grind, the pressure, the spotlight, the expectations. And when you look at it like that, you can understand why he's not rushing. But here's where the tension comes in. His timeline and the team's timeline are not the same. And when those timelines don't match, something has to give. Now let's go even deeper into the football side of this, because this is where things get really interesting. If Rodgers does sign, what does this offense actually look like? You're talking about a system under Mike McCarthy that is built on timing, precision, and quarterback intelligence. This isn't a plug-and-play offense. This is an offense that requires mastery. And Rodgers already has that mastery. That's why this fit makes so much sense. You're not asking him to learn something new. You're asking him to execute something he already understands at an elite level. Now imagine pairing that with improved weapons, a more stable structure, and a defense that can keep games close. That's not just a competitive team. That's a dangerous team. But, and this is the big but, none of that matters if he's not there early enough to build rhythm with the offense. Because even the greatest quarterbacks need reps. Timing routes don't just happen overnight. Chemistry isn't automatic. Trust has to be built. And every day that passes without that process starting, that's a missed opportunity. Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about the young quarterbacks again, because this is where the long-term impact really starts to show. Take Drew Aller, for example. He's a developmental prospect. Raw talent, strong arm, high ceiling, but not ready to be thrown into chaos. If Rodgers is there, Aller gets to sit, learn, absorb everything. He gets to watch how a master operates, how he reads defenses, how he controls the line of scrimmage, how he handles pressure. That's invaluable. You can't replicate that in practice reps alone. But if Rodgers doesn't come, now Aller's timeline gets accelerated. Now the pressure increases. Now mistakes become magnified. And that can either build a player or break one. Same goes for Will Howard. These are not plug-and-play starters. These are projects. And projects need time. So again, everything keeps circling back to Rodgers. Short-term success, long-term development, locker room stability. It all connects. Now here's something else that deserves attention. The mental toll on the fan base. Because let's be honest, this has been exhausting. Every week, there's a new update. Every week, there's a new timeline. Every week, there's a new theory. And yet, no decision. Fans are refreshing feeds, checking updates, debating nonstop. Some are optimistic. Some are frustrated. Some are just tired of talking about it. And that's the danger of a situation like this. It starts to drain energy before the season even begins. But here's the twist. All of that frustration, it can flip instantly. Because the moment Rodgers makes a decision, if that decision is yes, everything changes overnight. The narrative shifts. The excitement returns. The expectations skyrocket. Suddenly, all the waiting feels like build-up instead of delay. And that's why this moment is so important. Because it's not just about the decision. It's about what that decision unlocks. Now, let me ask you one final question before we wrap this up. If Rodgers announces tomorrow that he's signing, what's your expectation for this team? Be real. Is it playoffs? Is it a division title? Is it something even bigger? Because that answer tells you everything you need to know about why this situation matters so much. At the end of the day, this isn't just about one player. It's about direction. It's about identity. It's about whether the Pittsburgh Steelers are ready to take that next step, or if they're still searching for the piece that gets them there. And right now, all eyes are on one man. The clock is ticking, the pressure is real, and the next move could define the entire season.